So, schauen wir mal, wo wir waren. Was es zu tun gibt. Oh, DLC-Zeug. Beziehungsweise, hier, Flotilla Aid. So, was brauchen wir alles noch? Food, Water, Components. 6 Tage haben wir. Planzeug. Ein Scrap Component brauchen wir dafür. Wie weit haben wir da? 3 da. Okay. Okay. Gut. Okay. Okay, Essen haben wir. You're leaning against the metal crates you just loaded up with algae, packed and dried into bright green pucks. Ash hops onto one beside you, flexing her aching back. I hope the refugees like algae. Ash squints at you, as if you just interrupted her train of thought. It's a look you have become familiar with. It doesn't matter either way. This is what we've got. She sighs, rubbing the back of her neck. In the past cycles working the algae stack with Ash, you've had little insight into her mind. She rarely seems happy to start a conversation, but is always eager to end one. Despite this, you feel like something has grown between you. Something like silent trust. The kind that tends to seed itself in the fertile soil of hard but necessary work. There's something I've been meaning to ask. Ash raises her head cautiously. Go on. Why escape XPR? Ash pauses, her protective instinct fighting with the trust you've built. You can see her begin to shrug the question off. Then she stops, rethinks, sighs. What you need to understand, Sleeper, is that Erlin's Eye wasn't the only place where the Solheim collapse happened. Sure, Hawthorne, where we grew up, was an XPR installation, but that didn't screen it from Solheim going under. Actually, Solheim was the only reason XPR were ever here. She pauses, hesitant to get into the whole story, but wanting to offer something. She flinches, correcting herself. They are a service corps, you understand? They set up outposts and surrogate systems like this to offer refueling, logistics, and maintenance services to bigger companies with extraction contracts. She gestures to the eye around her, like Solheim. When Solheim went bust, XPR lost their client, and Hawthorne, well, we lost everything. We became an outpost tasked with just holding on. Keep the refueling platforms running, they said. Keep the outpost stable. Hold onto our claim. She rubs at her head, as if as if recalling all this was somehow physically painful. Do you know what it is like to spend your entire life in a place with no future? A place that exists only to hold a legal claim to a piece of territory, to shore up breach of contract negotiations between two corporations? It's like living in a... She searches for the word, her eyes jumping back and forth. In a grave. She clenches her hands. So, if you're looking for the answer to why questions, that's your answer. We, Peak and I, know what it's like to be forgotten, to be locked out. She stares hard at the side of the stack, the algae whirling against the glass in beautiful patterns, and she doesn't look away. Silence extends, and you realize the conversation is over. Ash seems angry, not at you, but with herself, for even voicing such ideas. After a while, you stand and start to load the crates onto the powered cargo trolley that Ash will run back to the Briar. As you do, you try to catch her eye, but she avoids it, soothing herself instead with the comforting simplicity of physical work. Okay. Haben wir Essen zumindest schon. Fehlt nur noch Scrap. So, Peaks Plan. Das ist +1. Das ist +1 und Danger. Okay. Okay. Okay, ich habe 6 Tage noch. Kurz gucken. 6 Tage. Hier brauche ich 2. Hier brauche ich 6. Hier brauche ich noch 5. Okay, dann warte ich noch einen Tag, dann nehme ich noch einen Stabilizer, damit das wieder voll ist. Und dann wird es hoffentlich funktionieren. Ja, fuck, stimmt, ich muss ja auch essen. Gehen wir mal kurz zurück. Okay. Und Scrap bekommen. Sehr gut. Vierer. Perfekt. Tug escort. Crew willing to escort the Briar through the quarantine will give the ship a better chance of passing the cordon without any trouble. You meet Peak leaning in a corner of the canteen in their typically unassuming way. It occurs to you as you approach that Peak must have had some practice at staying invisible. All good? They look up from their slate. That crew you were talking to. They nod to the group leaving the canteen. Will they join us? That's what they say. You aren't sure? Peak looks back at them as they disappear into the corridors of the installation. Looks like we'll have to take them at their word either way. Peak beckons for you to follow as they peel off the wall and head out into the walkway overlooking the cordon. Glad you were here to talk them into it. I never had much of a way with people. Peak smiles and looks away quickly as you walk. You and Ash seem to do okay. Peak laughs their light and easy laugh. Ash is not really like other people, which you've probably noticed. If only everyone was like Ash. They fade off, something drawing their attention. What I mean is, people have caused me a lot of trouble. I've had people hate me without knowing a thing about me. They tuck their hair behind an ear. I'm sure you know the feeling. They tend to ignore me. It sounds nice. Peak laughs a little. Peak leads you around a corner, heading back to the main cordon accessway. I appreciate you coming in and helping us out on this, Sleeper. On talking to the crew and, well, you know. Maybe after this insane plan is done, we can talk properly. They keep looking ahead, and you realize they are nervous. I'd like that. Peak smiles, looking down at their feet. That's settled then, they say to the floor. I better report to the news to Ash. We have ourselves a tug escort. Peak stops at an intersection. See you soon, Sleeper, and please take care. And with that, they drift away, the head down, the gate changing as they do. Their practiced invisibility shrouding them like a cape. Okay, da kann ich... Okay. Jo. Wunderbar. Dann gib mal Scrap ab. That's it. These components should be enough to cover most of the basic repairs the flotilla needs. You hope. Nice. You look over the pile of scrap components lying in the briar. You look around. The bay is empty. Ash and Peak are either elsewhere on the station or on the bridge a couple of levels up. You begin sorting through the pile, separating out useful components and boxing them by use. You don't recognize everything you find, but before long, you get into the rhythm of sorting. As you do, your mind starts to drift, your attention being drawn into the dark corners of the bay. The briar is in surprisingly good condition, considering that Hawthorne and XPR must have been operating it for decades by now. The marks of care are everywhere, from the delicate patch jobs polished to melt into the original finish, or the carefully bound wiring running through custom trunking. Ash loves this ship, that much is clear. Something catches your eye in one of the dark corners. A matte black stack of crates you hadn't spotted before. They are sleek and compact, tucked away behind some of the bigger, more worn containers. Investigate. You put the components away and go over to the sleek crates. You run your hands across their textured surface, but there is little hint of what lies inside in the opaque metallic casing. Then you see it, a yellow symbol, embossed onto the far side of the crate, a universal sigil used by spacers, corporations, and manufacturers alike. It's one you have seen throughout your time as a sleeper. Its meaning all too familiar. Explosive contents. You hear a hiss and Ash comes up through the base lock. She barely registers your presence, nodding at you as she passes. Sleeper? She busies herself with some task at the back of the bay. Ask about the crates. Ash doesn't turn around from whatever she is busy with. Just more supplies, Sleeper. Like everything else here. Can't think of anything else to ask, but sense that the atmosphere has now somehow shifted. You quickly finish up the sorting and slip out, waving goodbye to her back as you do. Okay. Will ich eins von denen oder will ich das lieber? Ich... Ja, ich glaube, ich nehme die Skills erstmal. Okay, so. Nicht gut. Okay. So, es kommt. Drone. Rapid burst of movement catches your attention. A drone. Its fins adjusting as it hovers in place. Floats in the corridor. Hello? The drone shifts a little, but does not respond. The drone buzzes closer, and a voice gurgles out of its speaker, distorted and strange. Okay, keine Ahnung, wer da spricht. Sleeper, come to the corner. We need to speak. Who is this? The drone clicks and wears, and the recording starts playing again. Sleeper, come to the corner. We need to speak. Okay. Inspect the drone. You move closer, and the drone bobs away to a safe distance. But as it does, you see the HA of Havenage emblazoned on its side. Could this be Fang's drone? Satisfied it has delivered its message, the drone rotates and accelerates away as rapidly as it arrived. You stare at it as it disappears from sight, hoping for some insight that escapes you. To the corner then. Okay. As you enter the passage that leads through the cordon, a flash of movement catches your eye. The drone. It stops to make sure you've seen it, and then flits into a side passage, leading to a set of narrow stairs. You climb up through a dark shaft, the drone stopping at each landing to check you are following. Despite its lack of expression, there's something overbearing about the way the drone waits, impatiently, realigning its fins in sequence. After a long climb, you come out onto an observation platform. The cordon and the vast, ramshackle refugee ships beyond fill your vision. The scale seems impossible, and immediately you feel small and naive for even thinking you could affect this situation. Something shifts nearby. The drone again? Wer ist das denn jetzt? A woman stood at the window at the edge of your vision. You're unsurprised you didn't notice her. She too seems impossibly small in the shadow of the flotilla. The drone buzzes by her shoulder and she turns. Sleeper, sorry for all the cloak and dagger nonsense, she responds at the drone, but I have never regretted being cautious. She smiles, a tight smile, and holds out a hand. I'm Helen. Helen. Shake her hand. The tight smile holds, but the drone keeps its single eye fixed on you. The effect is a little unnerving. Look, she glances around the empty observation deck as if checking for potential eavesdroppers. Let's be straight with each other. I know about your plans, and she cuts in before you can respond. I understand your motivations. Motives, meine ich. Gleiche Bedeutung. You look at her in her overalls, the yellow markers, the HA sigil. You've been on the eye long enough to recognize a Havenage member when you see them. You're Havenage. Yes, I mean, I expect that is obvious. The tight smile again. I hope you won't hold that against me. She glances around nervously again and moves a little closer. This entire situation, I am not here to defend it. She glances back at the flotilla. No one is happy about this. Especially not the refugees. She sighs. I'm not your enemy here, no matter what you think. She pauses. Sleeper, tell me something. What does Havenage mean to you? Hardenhurst. She squints at you. That was unfortunate. But you'd know it was one of our own who exposed Harden, and that has been dealt with. Havenage is used to being criticized. In some ways, we invite it. Our members are free to bring up grievances at any meeting, to propose new structures and approaches. She shifts her weight impatiently. As a counselor, it is my duty to listen to them. That is why I was elected by the members. We are an imperfect system, yes, and each counselor, each member, each representative can be flawed and worse. Chokes down. But we keep this place running. That is what we do. In a flotilla, she turns and looks out at the clump of fractured ships. The flotilla is a problem. Can the eye take in thousands of refugees safely? I don't know. This place is a ruin, Sleeper. What do you think the council discusses? The price of gyro? We make plans to keep this place spinning, to keep life support working, to ensure... Helen's slate chirps, and a grim look passes across her face as she sees the notification. She looks tired, the screen light casting her rigid expression in a pale glow. Sleeper, I didn't bring you here to explain how Havenage works. I came to talk about your plan to cross the cordon, breach the quarantine, and supply the flotilla. She looks directly at you. How do you know? She glances at the drone. I make it my job to know what happens here. I know you think you are helping the flotilla, but you cannot do this. Right now, halfway along the ring, one of a countless series of debates are being held. These debates are to evaluate the potential harm that could be caused if the refugees of the flotilla are left to enter the station. These debates are at a standstill. Ellen walks to the window. Too many in the Havenage Council think of the flotilla as a threat. After recent events, a hardline group has emerged. Protective, selfish. They seek only to benefit the members. In their mind, the flotilla is a danger to life on the Eye. If you're caught crossing the cordon and breaching the quarantine, it will only strengthen the hardline councilor's case. Criminals who stole a ship from XPR undermining the security of the station? She shakes her head. It's exactly what they want. The refugees need supplies. They do, and that's exactly what I want to give them. But unless the quarantine is lifted through a fair process, they will never get them. She sighs deeply. And those XPR spacers you're running with, Sleeper, do you know anything about them? No. Why do you think the refugee flotilla came here now? Something is happening in the system. Something is pushing people out of colonies and outposts that have survived since Solheim collapse. We need to be ready for whatever is coming, ready to protect the Eye. I know the Eye means something to you. I know there's a reason you are still here. Help me protect it. Helen fixes you with a strong look. Appreciate those spaces that this is the wrong move, that they will get caught, and the flotilla will be locked down. That Havenage will be delivered into those with the worst instincts. Forget this suicidal supply run with people you barely know. Help me fight for the Eye. I won't betray them. Helen looks away. But you will betray your home. Don't offer up the excuse the hardliners need to lock the flotilla out altogether. To persuade the members they are the safest pair of hands. She looks at you imploringly. Please. You look back at her and the flotilla behind, and sense a desperation in her plea. The notification breaks the silence. Shit. She rapidly scrolls through the pages of data. Sleeper, I need to go. She looks torn. Think about this, please. Talk to the spacers. Help them see reason. And she quickly leaves the observation deck before you have time to respond. You stay for a moment, watching the lights of the tugs and the flotilla, and wonder what it feels like to be on one of those ships. So close to your destination, yet so far from it. And then you think of the Havenage Council chamber across the eye, where the right of these people to find safety is being debated. You shiver, and then you too are gone, back into the stairwell and the cold dark below. Huh. Puh. Okay. Kann ich das mit denen jetzt schon sprechen? Nee. Sieht nicht so aus. Oh ja, dann. Nice. Ja, mit ein kleines bisschen Glück kriege ich mir das auf jeden Fall hin. Sleeper, Peak is waiting for you when you leave, but they look different. Pale, drawn out. You need to come up to the briar, now. They don't meet your eye. What's happened? Not here, Peak says. Come to the ship. We'll be waiting. Peak walks away. Don't take long. And with that, they disappear around the corner, leaving you anxious and confused. As you walk into the climbing briars, cavernous bay, now filled with crates and containers, Ash is waiting for you. In front of her, sliced open with its insides scattered across the top of a heavy-duty crate, is an object you recognize. Helen's drone. You freeze. Come in quick. Peak nudges you into the bay, looking behind you before sealing the entryway. We have to start being careful. You move closer to the container, your eyes on the drone splayed out in pieces, some parts of it hooked up to a slate that Peak picks up and begins tapping away at. Ash looks up from the dissection. We caught it buzzing around nearby, heading for the ship. She leans over and taps the HA sigil on one of the removed pieces of plating. It's a Havenage spy. We think we got it before it sent data back, but we can't be sure. He looks at you nervously. Ash cuts in. Have you noticed anyone watching you? Any drones like this? Anyone following you up to the briar? I've seen this drone. Ash frowns. Following you? I met its owner. Ash pauses for a while. Peak looking between the two of you. Explain, Sleeper. Explain, Sleeper, Ash says quietly. Tell them about Helen. You explain that you met with Helen at the cordon, and you tell Ash and Peak about what she told you. That the Havenage Council are debating lifting the quarantine, but they are blocked by the hardliners. You speak faster and faster, but before you can finish, Ash walks away in anger, and then comes back again, her eyes burning. What is this, sleeper? Have you understood nothing from what we've told you? She paces in front of you. Haven't are not your friends? They are administrators, which means they are interested only in their own power, their own survival, their own causes. They divide people as easily as sorting livestock. The greater good of their work demands it. The wider project of the station, the colony, the nation. Her eyes are wide as she speaks, her anger barely contained. She wants to help. Ash laughs. Help? Help what, sleeper? Undo the mess of her own creation? She only wishes to placate you, so you'll compromise. So you'll do what is acceptable, not what is right. She's just a counselor. Let me tell you something, sleeper, Ash says, her rage hardening into pain. When people become administrators, they give up something. Some part of being human, being an equal among others, goes away. They start talking about the greater good, the systems, the ways in which their hands are tied, or their processes compromised. My mother was the administrator of Hawthorne, and I have seen what it did to her. The noble higher calling, it is toxic. People should never have the chance to decide the fate of others, and those that do so at a cost to their humanity. Pig tries to cut in, but Ash holds up a hand. Don't start, Pig. Don't ask me to be reasonable or calm down. Thousands of people are desperate out there. Being reasonable will only prolong their suffering. Helen can help. Ash turns away. I'm done with this. You're risking this entire supply run just by being here. She walks back into the bay and starts checking the straps on the crates. I go next cycle. We don't need you anymore. Get out. Sleeper. Pig looks torn. You have to understand, this is personal for Ash. I know. Pig looks away, then at Ash. I don't know, Sleeper. I just don't know what to do. You glance around the Bay of Briar. The walls seem closer every second. This whole thing is closing in on you, and the question is, where do you want to be when it all collapses? You look at Peak. And what do you think, Sleeper? Peak rubs their forehead. Should we do this thing or not? Yeah. Peak nods. Okay then. They squeeze your shoulder. Onward. They slip away to help Ash, leaving you alone, and replay the conversation in your head. A certain kind of grim determination settling in the room. Last chance to prepare. And soft. Pig grins at you as you pile the iron thruster sets onto the motorized trolley in a derelict loading bay. I borrowed this from Ash. I barely know how it works. They seem giddy at the idea of stealing the ship parts from Havenage. I thought you worked for XPR. I did, but not as a repair tech. They help you heave the thruster into position. My specialty was computer systems. I mostly worked on keeping the protocols that ran the refueling platforms from totally decaying due to lack of use. There's a load of platforms in orbit of the moon Hawthorne is on, and Cinder itself. Ash and I ended up having to head out to them regularly to work on them. Sounds like hard work. Are you kidding? Peak smiles. That was the best job at Hawthorne. You get assigned a ship, you get to leave the colony for a bit. So much better than outpost maintenance or canteen work. The only reason we got assigned it was... The only reason we got assigned it was that Ash's mother is the administrator of Hawthorne, and Ash managed to get my name on the list too. Pig looks for the trolley's ignition. Ash is always saving me. They find a switch and hit it, and the trolley starts whining. Pig looks at the thrusters. Ash will install these. The Briar is a baby, really. Pig looks toward the bay exit. Truth be told, I was surprised she could bring herself to take it from her mother, losing a ship that has to have hurt the colony. What's a mother like? Tough. You'd have to be to keep control of a services outpost with no services to provide. Pig looks away. It's a tough place overall, Hawthorne. And Ash's mom, she likes it that way. Pig shuffles the trolley out of the bay into the corridor. They'll manage without the Briar. No choice. Pig smiles. And I have to admit, I'd love to have seen her face when she saw we had gone. Pig pauses. Don't tell Ash that. They walk on quietly, lost in their memories of Hawthorne. Okay, I think I can manage the rest. Pig brushes the hair out of the face. You've done more than enough this cycle. Pig looks over the thrusters. Once these are fitted, the Briar will handle better than ever. You might even get a thank you from Ash. Pig laughs. They head off into the corridor, the trolley whining its high-pitched whine. See you soon. Okay. Ich habe 75% Chance, dass es gut läuft, dass ich es noch schaffe. Sehr gut. Pig is waiting for you when you slip out of the operations center, nervously poking at their small slate. Sleeper, I followed what you were doing on the network. Incredible work. How do you do that? It comes naturally. Pig smiles. I can't tell if that's modesty or just the truth. Interfacing skills like that. It's almost worth being... They stop themselves. Sorry, I didn't mean... Don't worry about it. Pig nods. Sorry. And Pig quietly slip into the main walkway and work your way back to the public areas of the cordon. Havenage has had to quickly respond to the flotilla's arrival, and that means a lot of contractors and spacers walking through these corridors. You blend in easily enough. I haven't really met a sleeper before, Pig begins. As you might have guessed, they smile nervously. Hawthorne is an XPR service outpost, and since the collapse, no one came for refueling or repairs anymore. So my generation has never met anyone outside the company. We heard about sleepers, they nod in your direction, from the data packets that come through from XPR every once in a while. They usually contain news along with the corporate propaganda, but the reports relied on the details. S&R have kept the sleeper program pretty quiet anyway, and I think XPR are only interested in telling their employees about it because it made living in our company town look like a good life, in comparison to being a piece of corporate property. They freeze. Sorry. Again, I don't mean... They look down. I'm just not sure how to talk about this stuff. It's okay. Pig smiles. Shut up about it now. You walk on a little further, the walkway becoming busier. You both relax a little more, and go with the flow of people. I just want to say, I think I understand. They begin again. Clearly, this has been on their mind. I understand the need to escape, to get free of it all. They laugh at themselves. The structures, the systems, the company horizons in a company town. They stare ahead. Small places, small corridors, small people. They look away. The slow death it brings. That's it. They turn to you. I get why you signed up to be a sleeper, and why you escaped from that too. Not. You try to form words, but you can't. There's altogether too much running through your head. But you look at Peak, and they look at you, and that seems okay for now. You walk in silence again, each of you in their own thoughts, but moving together through space nonetheless. After a while you come to the entrance to the cordon, where handfuls of workers and crews filter in and out through two huge loading bay doors. Peak stops. Okay. They pause. I'm heading back to the Briar. Once again, incredible work on the sensors. That blind spot you created, that should give us a real advantage. See you soon. They head off, disappearing into the crowd almost immediately, outrunning their own nervousness. Okay. Haben wir es geschafft. Nice. Gut. 2 Tage warten. Okay. Mal. Hope against hope there's a chink in the sidereal horizon's vast armor. Got the dock. Sidereals are being loaded and prepped among all the commotion. Is it possible to find a way on board? Oh. Aha. Finde ich die noch mal? Den da oben. Ach, das ist... Okay. wahrscheinlich noch nichts Neues geben, aber sicherheitshalber mal schauen. Na, okay. 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 She's gone, Sleeper. Pig is breathless and shaking. She started the run without us. Shit. Let's go. If we head to the cordon now, Pig starts back up the corridor. They turn back. She has to make it, Sleeper. She has to. A shiver runs down your spine. Ash, I hope you know what you're doing. Ernsthaft. You arrive, frantic and anxious, at the cordon. Pig is nowhere to be seen. Then you hear footsteps, hammering on the metal stairway Helen's drone led you through before. The one that leads up to the observation deck. You leap up the stairs, two at a time, and make it to the top, momentarily blinded by the light pouring into the observation deck. Sleeper. Pig emerges from the light. I know she's trying to protect me, but... It's okay, she chose... But what about my choice, Sleeper? I'm not a child anymore. I can fight for myself. Turn away. There she is. Pig rushes to the wide window, leaning forward to catch a glimpse of the climbing briar's blue XPR livery against the black of the void. You spot the climbing briar, a glint of blue and white, and beside it the red glare of a tug's lights. The tug crew went with her. Pig smiles. I knew they'd keep their word. That'll help. Pig doesn't seem to hear you, but the idea of the crew backing Ash up makes you smile. Maybe this thing will work. He watches the briar and its tug escort arc down towards the edge of the cordon. Demarcated by the red lights of the perimeter system. So far, so good. The briar will just look like another refugee ship being escorted into the cordon. At least, at a glance. Pig grips the rail as Ash reaches the edge of the cordon, that invisible net of sensors splayed between ships and drones. Now let's hope the blind spot triggered. You think back to the mess of systems you had to wade through to set it up, the delicate contingencies you set up to trigger the sensor black out at just the right moment. Without noise, without ceremony, the briar slides through the cordon. You await the flickering of alarm lights, the swarming of drones. But nothing. Just another cycle. Just another ship. Ashes in. Both you and Peak let out the breath you've holding. At Loth. How did she do it? Peak smiles, shaking the head. We did it. Peak smiles wider. Yes, we did. They Loth. You feel a little shaky from the tension, but Peak's ease helps you settle. You imagine Ash steely-eyed in the pilot seat of the Briar, searching for a place to dock. Maybe being stubborn has its advantages. You okay? Me? Peak sighs. I think that took years of my life. But I've got to hand it to Ash. She was right. Young Peak turned back to the window, looking for the Briar again, amongst all those hulls, the calm fading as new worries settle in. You spot the Briar first this time, docking with the largest of the flotilla's ships. Vast converter tanker. Half of its protective plates removed. You think about the effort it must have taken to get that thing all the way here from the inner system. You watch the Briar, unable to get any sense of progress from its placid exterior. They will be offloading everything now, Peak says, both assuring you and themselves that everything is going to plan. You think of all the supplies loaded into the Briar and how long the process of unloading them might take. The bay was packed, rammed with everything you could offer, and the thought of bringing all that to the flotilla makes you smile. You think of the reaction of the refugees, of the welcome they'll give Ash as the bearer of such gifts. You even imagine a smile from Ash as she is showered with thanks. You focus on that as you watch the Briar, and continue the nervous wait for it to finish unloading. It's breaking off. Peak points at the Briar, and you see the puff of air and dust that accompanies an emergency depressurization. Ash must have ended things early, but why? Alle Brocken. Zu spät. Ah ja. Nicht schlimm. Schön, dass du da bist. Then you see them. The tugs closing in on the Briar. Heavenage must have spotted the ship. You and Peak are up against the window again, willing the Briar a safe path out of the flotilla. Suddenly the Briar shifts in space, a blue blur between two hulls. Peak whistles. Look at that. They smile at you. Looks like those upgrades we put together work. You watch as Ash cuts through the crowded flotilla, the tugs not daring to follow her dangerous path and peeling away. It is hard to keep track of the Briar, and suddenly both you and Peak are searching the black for a sign. Where has she gone? Then all of a sudden she is out, blue against the black, pulling away from the cordon on a wide arc back towards the station. A clean run. Peak cheers and smiles at you. We did it. She's out. They beam uncontrollably at you, the tension released. You find yourself smiling too, smiling at these two beautiful idiots and their beautiful ship. Then Peak is hugging you, squeezing you with all the nervous energy that had been building. Thank you, Sleeper. We did this together. They step back, still smiling. We did something. Geht's, stets, erlebt. Ja, an sich geht's mir gut, recht gut. Ja. Kann ich gleich ein bisschen erzählen. sind mit Citizen Sleeper kurz vorm Ende heute. Come on, they rush out of the observation deck. Let's meet her. Okay. You and Peak rush into the briar, finding yourselves in the now empty bay. The change is a reminder of what you achieved, and looking around you feel all the more satisfied. A hiss sounds at the far end of the bay and Ash enters, looking exhausted. Peak runs up to embrace her, but she sits down on the bay floor before they reach her. You did it. They sit beside her. Ich bin duschen. Alles klar. Dann bis gleich. Ash, you were incredible. She smiles a small smile at this, laying her head on Peak's shoulder. You suddenly feel like you're intruding, seeing the two of them like this, quiet and content. Sleeper, Peak calls. Come on over. You cross the bay and sit beside them on the hard metal floor. Ash, Peak asks, did you give the flotilla our chairs? What? They both burst out laughing at the ridiculousness of it all, at the exhaustion and the worry and everything else. You laugh too. It is impossible not to. And after a while, you all come to a stop. Peak wiping their eyes and Ash shaking her head. You would have loved to see it, Sleeper, Ash says quietly. Welcome, my god. They came to greet the ship once I docked to offload the supplies. I told them I was coming, of course, as soon as I got inside the cordon, but there were so many. Children, families, they were smiling at me, shaking my hand. Saul was there too, Peak, and he's just as gruff as he sounds over comms. She smiles. They took it all, crate after crate, until the ship was emptied out. Ash looks away, but there were so many, and even with everything we managed to bring, they needed more. They made me promise I would try to come back. Ash, Peak shakes their head. You know we can't do that twice. Ash stands up. What are we supposed to do? Wait for them to lift the quarantine? She's angry again, that familiar tension rising in her voice. Peak tries to pull her back down. Sit, Ash. Rest. You've done enough for today. Don't, Peak. I know my limits. Ash hardens. Okay. Well, seeing as they didn't catch you, perhaps they will lift it. They know the flotilla poses no danger now. And if they can account for the extra load on their life support... Ash walks away toward the ladder that leads up into the upper part of the ship. I need to rest, Peak. She holds up a hand. Sleeper. Then she limps up the ladder, step by painful step. I'm afraid if you were expecting a change in Ash's demeanor. Peak smiles at you. It's okay, let her rest. Peak nods. I think I need some rest too. They put a hand on your shoulder and get up from the floor. We couldn't have done this without you, Sleeper. And I know those in the flotilla would thank you too. Thank you. Peak limps up the ladder too, leaving you alone on the metal floor of the bay. Your thoughts drift to all those people on the flotilla, sleeping and sitting on metal floors like this. Children, families, playing in cargo bays and repurposed fuel tanks. You know their story isn't over yet, and you look forward to meeting them. The quarantine will lift. You feel more sure of this fact every moment, even though you're unsure why. You lie back on the metal and stare at the ceiling. What was it Feng told you, Erlen said? The eye opens for us all? Maybe the old guy was right. A home for the lost. You like the idea of that. Maybe in time you can help make that a reality. But something is bothering you. A sliver of a thought like a splinter you can't extract. Why are thousands of refugees coming here now? People don't abandon their homes for nothing. What wave is rushing through the system, and when when it reached the eye. You shut on the cold metal floor and get up. Something is coming. You can't feel it. This isn't over. Episode Flux complete. First part of the flotilla's story is complete. Episode Refuge begins when the cycle clock below is filled. Gathering storm. What's done is done. Now all you can do is wait to see what happens next. Okay. Jo. Dann machen wir erstmal Pause. Und ja. Schauen dann nächstes Mal, wie es weitergeht.